Thank you for being here today as we gather for the Airline Pilots Association's 115th regular executive board meeting. The resolutions on which you will act and the work each of you will do this week establishes the measure and the momentum for accomplishment of ALPA's Board of Directors meeting this fall. I'd like to again welcome our JetBlue pilot leaders today to their second executive board meeting, and I commend the 95% of their pilots who have become ALPA members in only 90 days. That's an outstanding testament to both these pilots and the strength of our union, as well as to the JetBlue pilot leaders' patience and perseverance in gaining the advantage of ALPA membership. In today's world, it can be easy to lose sight of the fact that patience is strategic action. In this era of impulsive reaction, the pace of life is metered in seconds. Technology means we can voice our opinion or vent our frustration in an instant, and that can be tempting, but is it wise? In a recent article titled "The Power of Patience," Harvard Magazine updates the word patience with phrases like temporal intelligence. The article suggests that what was once a term associated with forbearance, patience has today become an active and positive cognitive state. Rather than disempowerment, patience is now the opposite. Patience is power. Whatever you call it, the act of aggressively exercising patience is a proven strategy. It's far more likely to deliver results than the frenzied rush to do something right now reaction that may feel good at the time, but in the end fails to sway decision makers or, more importantly, yield results. We've all seen this, and we all recognize show horses. They may act but have few answers. They make a lot of noise. They thump their chest, and they do a lot of saber rattling. I've encountered many show horses here in Washington. They act big and sometimes attract headlines, but it's the workhorses who get the job done. History and the story of our union is rich with examples of the powerful change that can emerge from refusing to take the bait of immediate gratification and instead driving with resolve toward a goal that will improve our profession and our industry. And it's work, not show, that stands as the hallmark of our union. Together, ALPA members are not only the architects, but also the agents of achieving the positive change needed to ensure an economically viable, stable, safe, and secure North American airline industry. Just last week, we witnessed the power of patience in our work to make certain that U.S. airlines do business on a level playing field internationally. While the job is not done, it is not done. The Department of Transportation decision to dismiss Norwegian Air International's temporary foreign air carrier authorization is an extremely encouraging step to safeguard our industry's ability to compete around the globe. The Airline Pilots Association was patiently aggressive in executing a masterful legal strategy to block NAI's flag of convenience business model and eliminate the threat it poses to our jobs. Our safety team's careful efforts to catalog the safety risk, the government affairs team's remarkable gains in galvanizing broad bipartisan opposition, and the communication team's strategic outreach, along with many other efforts, were integral to the win. As I said, this is a win, but not yet a victory. And while our work to ensure NAI is denied is not complete, we do see the product of our patience. Listen, don't kid yourself. Globalization is real. ALPA is working on all fronts to ensure that our airlines and our pilots have a fair opportunity to compete internationally. In the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP negotiations, we have been advised that air transport services will be excluded from any agreement reached in those negotiations, just as it has been excluded from other free trade negotiations because of the Airline Pilots Association. We're leading the charge on that. We intend to track the issue carefully and make certain this exclusion sticks. Also on trade, the European Union has been asking to include air transportation services in the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, or TTIP. To date, the United States government has resisted EU pressure, Likewise, ALPA, along with the AFL-CIO, will continue to call for the United States to stay the course. And for those of you that are old enough to remember, we should never forget what happened with NAFTA and trucking. They didn't have labor or environmental protections in NAFTA, and we lost the trucking industry as we know it. Likewise, we're also pushing to add labor protections to Canada's air transport agreements, including the Canada-European Union Agreement. We're amplifying our Save Our Skies campaign, which helped expose NAI's convoluted scheme, and using those same tactics in our effort to reform wide-body aircraft financing at the Export-Import Bank and our push for Open Skies 2.0 or Fair Skies. We're also developing a Leveling the Playing Field white paper that detailed the pro-pilot reforms needed in Canada to help turn back the use of foreign workers and other threats to our members' careers. It's a challenge to find an area in which the need to adopt a patiently aggressive approach, exercising restraint until the most advantageous moment, rings more true than in ALPA's collective bargaining. While ALPA members have lived through more than a decade of negative economic trends, that medal now bears witness to many airlines that are earning record profits, paying off debt, improving balance sheets, and starting to show the stability of investment-grade companies. It's not yet true for everyone, but for the largest jet airliners, this is the strongest bargaining environment we've seen in more than a decade. With American and U.S. Airways piggybacking on our gains at Delta and United, the negotiating landscape will no longer contain a large competitor that pays drastically lower rates and undercuts our bargaining position. We are now better than ever in recent history to pursue a pattern and capitalize on each other's gains. But this certainly doesn't mean that our pilots will stop seeking the improvement in their contracts, and to the contrary, our hope is that many pilot groups will be able to narrow the number of issues they take into bargaining. Fewer issues can lead to a shorter negotiations that focuses on key items that affect our pilots the most. For many of the fee-for-departure carriers, the bargaining environment is very different. I recognize that progress is not moving far enough and not fast enough, and that many of our members are being forced to make incredibly difficult decisions. New challenges emerge every day, such as Americans' plan to transfer planes from Envoy Air to PSA. What must not be lost on anyone, on this governing body, is that a holding company made the decision to transfer flying between its subsidiaries. The pilots at Envoy and at PSA did not participate in this decision and should be treated with nothing less than professionalism and with respect. The macroeconomics are on our side. By being patiently aggressive, time will yield the opportunity, and ALPA will seize it. To this end, ALPA has overturned the phony pilot shortage fabricated by some and instead revealed the facts of the pilot pay shortage. The flying public now understands, as does government and airline management, that current starting pay and compensation for airline pilots is flatly unacceptable. And just in case you missed it yesterday, please take a look at ALPA's new video on this.
A serious issue has been brewing in the airline industry. As thousands of baby boomers are retiring and leaving their jobs as airline pilots, airline managements are wondering who will pilot their aircraft in the future. They are fearful of a pilot shortage. For decades, some airlines have capitalized on our younger generation's dreams of becoming airline pilots and have offered rock-bottom pay and benefits along with little opportunity for career advancement. This has caused students to think twice before choosing to become airline pilots. After all, having spent $150,000 to $200,000 for a university degree in pilot training to become an airline pilot, students can expect to get paid marginally more than food preparation workers. No, there are no typos. From $14,000 to $23,000 for starting pay as first-year airline pilots at the lowest paying carriers, it's no wonder students are choosing other professions, and prompting many qualified pilots to leave the profession or fly for foreign carriers. Even students who are passionate about working in aviation and earn their degrees have the option of other career paths in aviation, including a test engineer starting at $52,000, an operations manager starting at $55,000, and a newly commissioned military officer starting at $53,616 in salary and allowances. Some in the airline industry ignore these low wages and falsely promote an alleged pilot shortage as an excuse to cancel flights or drop routes, or worse, to eliminate or weaken the safety regulations that increase the safety of our airline industry. They even blame updated safety rules that increase pilot skill and qualifications and prevent fatigue, rules they worked with the rest of the industry and the FAA to create to make U.S. airlines safer, and that they had 3 years to implement. So, does all of this mean there is a pilot shortage? Simply put, no. But it's a headline grabber and an easy scapegoat. Let's look at the facts. More than 700 ALPA pilots are currently on furlough in North America. Over 1,000 qualified airline pilots work abroad at airlines such as Emirates, China Eastern, Etihad, Asiana, Korean, etc., because these companies pay more and offer better benefits and quality of life. Many of the pilots who work elsewhere would prefer to fly for U.S. airlines if they were able to earn compensation commensurate with their skill and responsibility and feel confident of a long-term career. So, let's look at the numbers. FAA data shows in 2014 there are over 137,000 active pilots who are eligible to fly, younger than 65 years old, holding ATP and first-class medical certificates. Another 105,000 pilots hold instrument ratings and commercial pilot certificates and could potentially obtain an ATP. In addition, about 2,400 qualified pilots leave the U.S. military services each year. In 2012, the FAA certificated 6,396 new ATPs, and that number is trending upward each year. That's a total of over 251,000 pilots who, according to a recent Government Accountability Office report, are competing for 72,000 airline pilot jobs. Do the math. Is there a pilot shortage? The GAO report makes clear that there is no current shortage of qualified airline pilots in the United States. Today, there is no pilot shortage. But with a large retiring workforce and college tuition fees and flight training yielding only minimum wage salaries here, combined with substantially better compensation overseas, there is no doubt we'll be facing a shortage in the future. What is the solution? The U.S. and Canadian governments must adopt strong pro-airline policies that level the playing field for their airlines and enable them to compete and prevail in global air transportation. With consistently profitable and stable airlines, our industry can and should offer the salary, benefits, job security, and career progression that will retain and attract the most qualified pilots, now and in the future. To learn more, visit www.alpa.org/pilot shortage.
So we released that video yesterday afternoon, and by yesterday evening, there had been 10,000 views. And this morning around 6 a.m., there had been 14,000 views. And by 8 a.m., there had been 25,000 views. This has gone viral on the net. It's a testament to our communications department, our social media group, and this is definitely getting the word out, which is good for all of us. So we're going to continue to ramp up our advocacy to ensure that safety rules, which is what some in Washington are advocating for, are not rolled back under the false claim of an alleged pilot shortage. At every ALPA pilot group's bargaining table, the negotiating environment is unique. We have extremely important negotiations underway or coming up at nearly half of our pilot groups, including several fee-for-departure properties, FedEx, JetBlue, Hawaiian, Spirit, Delta, and Sun Country in the United States, and term, interim, and merger-related negotiations in Canada. And ALPA tailors our support and our resources to best meet the needs of each of our U.S. and Canadian pilot groups. It's important to remember that ALPA provides the bargaining experience, the information, the resources, and the subject matter experts to help your team reach the best outcome. But ultimately, your pilot group's bargaining goals, negotiating decisions, and agreement ratification is in your hands. I've said it before, and I will say it again. A pilot is a pilot, and we can't and we won't allow the labels by management, mainline, regional, cargo, supplemental, to divide us. Others have mentioned it earlier this morning, but I'm pleased to reiterate good news of a second proposed dues reduction for ALPA members, following on the first one that occurred at the beginning of this year. At this meeting, we're hopeful for action to further reduce member dues, the 1.85, to become effective at the beginning of next year. And on that very positive note, I see that our general manager, Lori Garver, sitting right here, and I just want to acknowledge that she marks her one-year anniversary this week, and it looks like the honeymoon period is over, so please feel free to ask your very toughest questions of her. Congratulations, Lori. I'm paraphrasing an Atlantic Monthly writer who, in relearning the lost skill of patience, counsels to stick with stories that don't answer all questions on page 1. But you can't be patient forever, even if it's being aggressively patient. ALPA will never stop fighting, but when we say fight, it's not fight to fight, it's fight to win. It's easy to scream, shout, send nasty letters, and be a show horse. But it's an ALPA workhorse with ALPA's workhorse ethic that will achieve the results our members, our union, and our industry need to become stronger moving forward. I'm honored to have each of you with me in this fight to win. Thank you, and good morning.